Hey guys, welcome back to another Flesh and Blood video. Today I am joined by the one, the only, he's my least favorite wizard player in the whole world, Nick Mahalis. He just recently top 8'd calling Minneapolis, and he's here to tell us about it. Nick, how are you today, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. So let's dive into it. Let's start off. Tell me about your weekend. Let's start with nationals and kind of go from there.
Yeah. I flew in on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Got in around midnight Central Time, which was way past my bedtime. Was informed upon my arrival to the hotel that I need to submit a deck list before midnight. Uh, there was some pondering. Ended up submitting Kano because I almost jumped ship to Riptide, but I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't. Held fast. And then next day, Nats was a ton of fun. Pulled the classic maneuver of going 3-0 and then losing a round to CC and then losing 3 rounds of draft.
It sounds like the classic Kano
So
play.
yeah, it is the classic Kano play. So just like we drew it up.
Okay, so even though Nats may not have went exactly the way you wanted, you still went 3-1 in CC. So, I mean, I would think that had to make you feel pretty good moving into Saturday for the calling, I would think.
Yeah. So felt good about that. Along with night before, talked a ton with Blazing for Lethal in the hotel lobby, and we basically decided to scrap all of the preconceived sideboard and rebuild it
Okay.
from scrap there. And that was really beneficial. When we go over the sideboard, there's some interesting stuff with my list. I'm sure some people will disagree with.
Okay.
But going through that, felt very confident going into the calling and felt we had a very strong list. So
Okay. So 3-1 in Nationals, and then Friday night sounds like you had a chance to, I know Blazing for Lethal, I know him from Talishar. He plays a lot of Kano. I mean, as the name would suggest. And so you guys like reworked the whole deck. And it's my understanding that with the reworked deck, you went 7-1 on Saturday, day one of the calling.
yes, my one loss was to the Azalea, who ended up winning.
Okay,
And
nice.
so, yeah, I think I actually have my matchup notes.
Oh, okay,
Um,
awesome.
Going through it, round one I played against Jace, who was on Fi, an excellent opponent.
Okay.
Here, he has 2 life totals written down, 40, 36, and then the game ended. So, if I'm remembering correctly, I think I went first. It was my turn 0. I leaked 4 damage, and then I had a Sonic Boom into Blazing, Blazing, Blazing kill on his
My
first
gosh.
turn.
Good lord.
So, classic Kano game. Chase was awesome though. We hung out after, had some hot chai, and sat in the rain. It was
Nice. There you
great.
go.
So, game 2 was against New. My opponent was Hazel.
Okay.
Um, this one was incredibly close. I think New is a tough matchup, especially with my list. I definitely made some sacrifices
Okay.
to percentage points in it. But with just played the tempo game plan, did not stack New there, and pulled it off.
Okay.
They did. I did make a misplay. I did not pitch my whole hand to the card that takes something from it and
To
turn it
Bonds
into
of
something
Agony, the one that
technical.
takes the
Yeah,
cards out of your deck.
yeah. I should have just pitched it all to Kano, but forgot to. But
Okay.
ended up making it there. Game 3 was on against Zen. Um, Opponent was Ryan. I don't honestly remember much about this game.
Hey, that's okay. We can't
Um,
remember them all, right?
so but it was a dub. So, we're- oh, this one was also turn 1 kill.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
So to this point, you're 3-0 in the calling, and you've played 2 MST heroes and a Fi. So, I mean, just so far, based on your experience, how do you feel Kano fits into the MST meta with, a lot of the new heroes wanting to pack blues in their deck?
yeah, at first, I think me and a lot of other Kanos were very worried
Mm-hmm.
about these decks that were going to effectively run and also put out damage with them still. Especially Enigma was super scary, being an illusionist with a ton of ward. It turns out, and I'll talk about this, the Enigma
Okay.
matchup at some point. None of them are all that bad. I think, for me personally, New is the toughest. But you also have to be pretty comfortable with pitch stacking into maybe New but definitely Enigma. So,
Okay.
um, and then Zen is just a headlong race. I think we're favored, but I think the Zens would say they're favored. So it's probably
I hear that a lot.
yeah. Um, yeah. So it's not as bad as I originally thought it would be, which
Okay.
is
Well,
nice.
that's good. So we're 3-0 at this point. When did you pick up your first loss?
I picked up my first loss in round 7.
Okay. And you
To
said that was
Azalea.
to Billy, right?
That was Billy. Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
it's got to feel pretty good to go 7-1 day one of a calling and know that your one loss was to the guy that ended up taking home the trophy and the whole thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. And it looks like I put him down to 6, so it wasn't that bad. We had our combo turn and just couldn't close that final gap.
Okay.
Which is how Azalea often goes. You're not gonna fill kill them, because you
Sure.
have to combo a little extra early, and then you just play that mid-rangey game to finish it out. And then wrapping up, my round 8 was a KO with no arcane barrier. So
Okay. So no AB, man, that's bold.
yeah.
They
Um,
really leaned into the no respect for Kano mindset there.
I don't think it paid off. It,
Yeah, it sounds like it did not.
but it was a nice, wrap up to the day. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's go
absolutely.
on.
Well, all right. So we're 7-1 day one. Tell me about day two, and then kind of top 8, and kind of how Sunday looked for you.
Yeah. Day 2 starting out, I was just kind of happy to be in day 2.
Mm-hmm.
I was X and 1, so knew I had to go X and 2 to be guaranteed for top 8.
Okay.
So we were in the no loss mindset,
Yep.
and I think I played against a KO round 1, which was a victory. Round 2, I don't have the hero written down. Um, and then I lost to uh I believe a Zen round
Okay.
3 or 4. And it's 5 rounds on day 2 there.
Yep.
Um, so I lost to a Zen on round 3 or 4, and I it was round 4, yeah, because I beat a Zen round 3.
Okay.
Uh, and was definitely a little shaky there. We had one more round, and I was like, "Well, I might make it as X in 3 as like the highest seed one." We
Yeah.
sat and like talked about it for a second,
I was
but
like, I
went
remember
in.
us having this conversation. I remember being like, you know what? I think you're locked no matter what, but how about you just go mop somebody up real quick and we just, and it won't matter.
Yeah. And so I was just going in with like, yep, gonna have to win it mindset. And got my gem pairing into Brody, and was like, well, if the dream is gonna die anyway, this is a decent one. Just losing to Azaleas, who are
Uh,
very good at Flesh and Blood. Uh, and we had a really excellent game. It was another one of those Azalea games where they push a bunch of damage early. You do a combo turn that I put him down to 4, it looks like.
okay.
Um, and had a really fun line where I got to double pump off of a Tome of Aetherwind instead of draw cards, which
Oh,
is always
wow.
a blast. So,
That's cool.
uh,
So the pumping off of Tome of the Aetherwind, the hidden mode there, I would say for most
yeah.
people, they ended up letting you pull out the game.
Yeah, so when you get in those Kano end game states, you're just looking to push the largest arcane damage on one spell.
Okay.
And so for me that turn, I had like banished blue,
Mm-hmm.
and was like kind of thinking about it was just a blue 0 cost, so 1 arcane damage.
Okay.
And kind of thinking about lines, had the tome in hand, and then realized like I had uh a Kindle and could just pump it up to 5, and he had AB2 and put him to 1, and then anything that was 3 or more arcane damage, which is most of the deck, would kill him.
We just
So
get there off the top.
yeah, so that's what we went for, and it paid off.
Hey, man. It was like, dude, Going X into it a calling, and it sounds like you had some really good opponents. I mean, Billy ended up winning the whole thing, and he's a very good player. And Brody, I think most people would argue probably one of the best Azalea players in the world. So being able to get that W like that, that's a big standout.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. All good roads come to an end. Unfortunately, it sounds like you ran into kind of Kano's boogeyman in the top 8 match, from my understanding, though.
I did. I was very tired going into top 8,
Yep.
and I had not drank enough water that day, that's for sure. But I get paired into Prism,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all in the hands of the gods at that point. So we just sent it, and it didn't work out, and that's okay because that matchup is pretty tough. It's winnable, but
I mean,
it's hard.
that makes sense. And, it's funny. You talk about, being tired, not having enough water. There's a lot of mental fatigue that comes from playing over the course of a calling. But, part of me, can't help but feel this way. And I felt this way at other tournaments where, you top 8 and you're like, I made it. Like, you let this sigh of relief out. And then I almost wonder if, like, when we get to that point, if sometimes, like, we're playing a little bit looser because we've made it to where, like, that, like, that's the goal. That's the cutoff. That's where you want to make it.
That definitely happened to me. I was like, oh well, especially being matched into Prism. I just played it super loose.
You're just
And
like, here we go. If we get there, we get there.
yeah, yeah. Just tried to be luckier rather than good. So
I mean,
and that
sometimes
didn't
that
work
pans out, man.
But
Oh, all right. Well, it sounds like an exciting weekend, man. Let's jump over and let's take a look at your deck. All right, Nick. So we've got the deck pulled up in front of us here, and starting at the top with the equipment suite, it's all pretty standard stuff. Like we're seeing like pretty much just race combo stuff up here at the top with Crucible and Spellfire Cloak and stuff like that. And then as we look at the deck again here on the top level, I'm still seeing a lot of usual suspects, but I'm noticing that you're only on 2 Aether Flare. I know that this card is like like a doubler, as a lot of people call it. Like why only 2 Aether Flares?
yeah, Aether Flare can win games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the current speed of the meta, you generally don't either have enough cards in hand to benefit from playing it on your turn, which was
Okay.
where one of its strong suits was, because it's one of those cards that forces your opponent to AB.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing it as a tempo piece. And right now, we are very much just in the like full flight combo phase of the meta, where like
Okay.
these hyper aggressive decks are forcing you to combo earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
And Aether Flare, I mean, a red Aether Flare is obviously a hit on your combo turn if you're blind comboing, but
Sure.
it's really rare that we're blind comboing anymore with some of the other cards we'll talk about.
Okay.
And so it is kind of losing its place for me a little bit. There's not really a better replacement for the 2 red ones right now, but
Mm-hmm.
especially with the next set coming out, I could see it eventually not being in the deck unless
Interesting.
the meta changes.
I mean, that's fair. We never know what the meta's going to do, but I mean, I think a lot of people might gasp when they hear you say that there's a world where we could not see Aether Flare in the deck, or maybe everybody's prepared for that, and I'm living in 2021. I don't know. It's who knows.
No, I think it's tough to say. I think the blues are very good.
Right. Right.
It's the red that is shaky sometimes.
No, that makes sense. So Aether Spindle, Wildfire, and Blazing Aether, those are all like very core staples of the deck. The next card on our list here is Cindering Foresight, and you had just made the comment that we're not really blind comboing anymore. Is Cindering Foresight a big part of that?
Yeah, this is a card I should have played 3 of, I think.
Okay.
It just allows you to, with an arsenal, Cindering Foresight, and a Kindle in hand, and 1 combo piece in hand as well, and 2 blues,
Mm-hmm.
you can really consistently full combo.
Okay.
So Cindering Foresight is uh, kind of a weird one. It's a 2 block, which generally we want to avoid in our wizard decks.
Mm-hmm.
The ones we do play are super impactful cards like Tome of Aetherwind or Tome of Fyendal.
Sure.
And I think this deserves that spot as well, where a card we're willing to play, even though it's a 2 block.
Okay.
Um, So you get your op 3 on your combo turn. So you have no idea what's on top. You have one or two combo pieces. Being able to just like take those top 3 cards and look at them, the number of times I saw like blue and then a tome and then just like shuffled that thing to the top and got to draw my blues was incredible. Like it's a very very good card.
Okay, that's
Um,
awesome. So we're definitely looking at adding a third one, probably moving forward.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, awesome. And then the next card, and this is the card that I feel like a lot of people have opinions on, whether it's good or bad. People have opinions on it. Kindle. Like I heard somebody on Twitter say the other day that they feel like Kindle brings down it brings the skill the skill like level down in the deck because it just enables some more dumb things. But I mean, this card has a lot of good text, but it's also like a whiff off the top of the deck. So talk to me about Kindle.
Yeah, it's got some super cool design. It's obviously built for Kano. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I find Kindle lines and the Kindle combo turns to be the most entertaining for
Okay.
me as the Kano player. Partially, I think, because it's kind of new still, and we're getting to like play with new lines and stuff.
Sure.
But I don't think it decreases the skill level of the deck
Okay.
really too much. It is a card that is still hard to play. It has a pretty big restriction of like you only get that draw card if you have no cards in hand,
Right.
and so learning like arsenaling is a little different in the deck now, and that kind of thing. And
Okay.
so, again, this card pairs really well with Cindering Foresight because Cindering Foresight is a card that on the combo turn you can just like ship out of your hand immediately.
Right.
That still has a really good effect, and so I mean, I really love Kindle. I will be playing 3 in every Kano list, and so unless
Okay.
something changes, it is a no block. It is a miss on Kano. There's a lot more misses in the deck now, which when we talk about Sonic Boom, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And but I genuinely think it is basically a new auto include. You think of like your Tome of Aetherwind and your Lessons and Lavas and your Aether Wildfires and Blazing Ethers. I think Kindle is probably on that list as well.
Okay. That's awesome. Kindle is the new staple of the deck. I love it. So it's ironic that you mentioned Sonic Boom because I'm looking at the rest of the list here, and on the second row here, Sonic Boom is the only two of. So is playing more misses from Sonic Boom, does that play into only running two of those cards now?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion Sonic Boom is probably a bad card.
Okay.
Um, but I like it quite a lot. It's
Okay.
really fun. Like, the combo turns where you get to play Sonic Boom and with your Cindering Foresight like the next card too, you're like, you get to do the fun thing.
Right.
But in the end, Sonic Boom, its actual real downside is that it's a 2 cost.
Okay.
Um, so we look at all of the spells in the deck here, and the only other 2 cost, I believe, is Aether Spindle. Um,
Wildfire and Aether Spindle.
oh yeah, Wildfire.
I was
We
like,
don't
yeah,
even
you
count
mean like
Wildfire.
the most
Like,
staple card of the deck?
yeah.
Yeah, let's just leave that one
Um,
out.
so Wildfire, obviously, we're playing that one.
Hmm.
You don't need to win with it. I think a little too many new Kano players get too focused on Wildfire, but
Okay.
uh, and then Spindle is the ultimate tempo piece because off of a blue you get your Crucible into Spindle for 5.
Hmm.
Even if they have AB3, you're opting 2, which means you get to like ship some cards down. If they don't AB it, you're drawing up 4 cards and know the top card of your deck, which is like peak. If Kano could just always know the top card of the deck, he'd be unstoppable. And so, but Sonic Boom, the issue is, the deck has been streamlined a little bit to where like all of our blues are now 0 and 1 cost. All the spells are,
Right.
are blues, are 0 and 1 cost. And so when you're doing your math and pumping your Wildfire with some of these turns, uh, having that 2 cost could mean that your math was off by 1 resource.
Okay.
Um, And despite it having this huge upside of also adding another spell, maybe there's also some more misses in the deck. I don't think that's as relevant. There were a bunch of misses in the deck before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it being a 2 cost is tough. So I think if I were to make any changes to this list, it'd probably be cutting both Sonic Booms. One would be another Cindering Foresight.
Okay.
The other might be an Aether Flare. It might be another blue, like a Depot or something. I'm not sure.
Okay. No, that's fair. That makes sense. And then as we look at the rest of row two, it's all pretty standard stuff here. Looking at row three, I have Ophidia. Honestly, I like to play. I like to play Kano just because I never get to play my Eye of Ophidia that I own.
Yeah.
And then we have all blues across the bottom here, but we have 2 Potion of Deja Vu, and as someone who knows Kano and understands how to play around it on like a pretty fundamental level, I would say. I see some people playing 0 potion. I see some people playing 1. What's the rationale behind playing 2 Deja Vu?
Yeah. So I'd like to comment on Ophidia.
Yeah,
Some people
sure.
cut it. I think it's the most busted blue in the deck. It allows for it's like a combo card in itself on your combo turn.
Okay.
Being able to just like see the top 2 cards is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Potion of Deja Vu, I quite like it. It allows for some very, very powerful combo lines.
Mm-hmm.
Topping Gaze the Ages or Lesson in Lava or any of your tomes that you just end up drawing by accident on
Yeah.
your combo turn is very powerful.
Okay.
And its cost of entry is pretty minimal. You're putting another no block in your deck. It's
Mm-hmm.
still a hit off of a Kano activation,
Sure.
but it's not a damaging hit. So on your combo turn, that could be tough. But again, because of Cindering and Eye and all of these things that look at the top of our deck, we're just not uh, comboing blindly as much anymore. And so Potion of Deja Vu helps with that. There's some crazy Gaze the Ages loops you can do with 2 of them that are a ton of fun. Along with just, I want to draw it consistently enough that in a more mid-range style matchup, I'll see 1 that I can play.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So that wraps up our 60 cards. Let's talk about our sideboard a little bit because you've got some interesting ones down here. I think Scour is a card that has picked up a lot of popularity. I know that you like this into Prism. I assume this is probably good. I'm trying to think. Like maybe do you play this into Enigma and Viscera as well, or what are the matchups for
Yeah.
Scour?
Prism does not make enough auras for it to be worth it.
Okay.
Or token auras. So instead, I play it into Enigma because it can shut off her turn. If you banish it off the top and kill the token aura she's attacking with, it just doesn't have go again.
Okay.
The go again doesn't resolve. And I like it into. It's basically your only way you can consistently win against OTK Viscerai.
Okay.
Um, and so it's got a lot of game. When I was pitch stacking brutes, like KO
Mm-hmm.
specifically, I would play it because on their turn where they make all the mites, you can just get them.
You can just get
Um,
got gamer.
yeah. But Scour is quite a good card. Definitely one I would play as a 3 of.
Okay. I also noticed that we have, the 1-for-4s. I assume Aether Quickening and Scalding Rain are for matchups where you want to play Waning Moon.
Yeah. So you're only really bringing these in if you know your opponent is either super low AB,
Mm-hmm.
which honestly there's no real way to know, so I wouldn't bring it in that case. Or yeah, if you're bringing in Waning Moon. So generally, these illusionists, the maximum AB they'll pack is AB3,
Okay.
and what that means is that these 4 breakpoints are super important. Because that's what's going to let you push over their arcane barrier and start breaking up their board state.
Yeah.
When in combination with Waning Moon, you pitch your blue, you like Scalding Rain on your turn, you pop one of the auras, and then you Waning Moon.
Okay.
Can be really, really powerful. Because you're stripping 2 cards from them, And Waning Moon also gives you a lot of insurance against the instant speed auras, where they'll
Okay.
try and like flash it in response to your wildfire or something like that, and you just activate Waning Moon once it resolves, and you take out the aura there that would be
Yeah.
preventing
So
multiple
you
units.
like the Aether Quickenings, the Scalding Rains, and Waning Moon against Enigma, I assume, based off what we're talking about here?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Enigma, I'm definitely playing Aether Quickening, Scalding Rain, Scour, and Waning Moon in the
Okay.
matchup. And that's a matchup I pitch stack.
Okay.
So it's you're just trying to control their board state until you can pitch stack a big combo turn. And I've been consistently winning it as long as I'm like, ready in the pitch stack mindset.
Yeah.
Played one super late the other night and I was like, oh man, I'm 2 cards off. I suck. But
It takes a lot of brain power to pitch deck this deck, so
yeah.
I don't think anybody blames you there.
And so I think if you know how to pitch stack and can do it consistently, Enigma can actually be a pretty easy matchup if you're prepared for it.
Okay. No, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense. And then the last card that's really interesting, that I want to talk about is Oasis Respite. This is one that's seen play in the pitch deck versions of Kano over, the last like few months. You cut all the other D reacts from your list, but we're still on Respite. When and where do we want this card?
Yeah, so we cut the sideboard, Blazing and I was kind of like looking at it and had those 3 slots left. And I could have put like some D reacts in. They would have been good against New.
Mm-hmm.
But New also has stuff like shreds and other
Okay.
mean things that break up your blocking cards. And
Sure.
Oasis feels very guaranteed into that matchup to some extent. Not
Okay.
guaranteed, but quite good. Along with it having just a ton of game into the mirror.
Okay.
So in the Kano versus Kano mirror, having 3 Oasis is pretty good.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that just being like gotcha to your opponent, like in the mirror. Did you play the mirror at all this weekend during the calling?
I did not,
Okay.
which was a little. It was good because didn't knock out any other Kanos, but I was like, oh man, I packed these 3 Oasis and boarded the bid exactly once. So
That's hilarious. I mean, hey, that happens, man. So, like the gym lottery is a real thing, and
yeah,
that kind of stuff happens from time to time.
yep.
Looking at your sideboard, are there any cards that you would maybe consider cutting or maybe adding to your sideboard, or do you like the way that your 15 sideboard slots here kind of set up?
I think Enigma has lost some hype.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see less of them. I could see cutting like the 3 Scalding Rains for 3D reacts. I think with 3 Sync Blows and 3 Oasis, you could stack New.
Okay.
Um, but it also Scalding Rain is very good in the mirror. Um, so it's hard to say, honestly.
Okay.
Uh,
No, that's fair.
I
I was like, I know
I
sometimes it's just a best guess.
yeah, I like the sideboard where it is. I think the only guaranteed changes I'll make is cutting those 2 Sonic Booms.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, guys, you heard it here. That's what it takes to top 8 a calling on Kano. Nick, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Guys, take it easy, and we'll see you next time.